Some of the world's largest humanitarian organizations are facing removal from Gaza and the occupied West Bank. Israel says it will suspend the licenses of more than 24 aid groups on January 1st, accusing them of failing to meet new vetting rules to prevent what it calls the exploitation of aid by Hamas, a claim rejected by the United Nations and international agencies. The decision comes as Gaza sinks deeper into crisis, with more than 1 million Palestinians living in tents or bombed-out buildings as winter conditions worsen. Those affected include Doctors Without Borders and the Norwegian's Refugee Council, major providers of medical care, food, shelter, and education. Israel claims some organizations failed to clarify the roles of staff it alleges have ties to armed groups, claims the NGOs deny.
The demand for our staff list had two issues with it, two main issues. One is a staff safety concern. This is a party to the conflict, and a party to the conflict that has killed hundreds of aid workers over the course of 2 years. So for us, it's a very real security issue and duty of care issue for our staff to keep them and their identities protected. There's also an issue, a legal issue, in terms of what we can contractually disclose based on the fact that we receive funding from the European Union and EU member states, where there are very strict data protection laws.
Another concern is who will fill the void.
Well, we've seen an example of what happens when principled humanitarian actors are no longer able to operate. And that was what we saw in May of last year when the GHF came in, and we saw hundreds, thousands of Palestinians shot, injured, and killed while seeking food for their families. We know that inexperienced organizations that may be more susceptible to pressure or even collaborating with one of the parties to the conflict will fill up that space, and that won't protect Palestinians who are already in so much need.
The move has drawn swift international backlash. The foreign ministers of at least 10 countries, including France, the UK, and Canada, warn the decision could further worsen Gaza's humanitarian crisis.
This Israeli step is against international law. But furthermore, this is part of the genocidal plan that Israel has been implementing for over 2 years now. These organizations provide humanitarian aid, especially in the Gaza Strip, but also in the West Bank. Some of them work in human rights, document international law violations, and therefore the Israeli motivation behind this is to further its apartheid and genocidal regimes in the occupied Palestinian territory.
Israel claims it's meeting aid commitments under the October ceasefire, a claim aid groups strongly dispute. Under the new rules, affected organizations will lose their license on January 1st, and those based in occupied East Jerusalem and Israel will be required to leave by March. With humanitarian access shrinking and international aid groups pushed out, concerns are growing that Gaza's man-made humanitarian catastrophe will become even harder to document and easier to ignore. Mohammad Al-Kassim, TRT World, occupied East Jerusalem.